Shoot. Let's see if I can lock it in. Mics are hot. They're up. Don't say anything you would want your mother to hear.
Mhm.
All right, Harry. Thank you so much, and thank you for being patient. Harry is the Grand Wizard. Not that I don't know any more Grand Wizards, but Harry is truly the one because he is the person that makes all this happen. So I have to say thank you to Harry Draws. He is our one and only producer, and he makes everything happen around here. My name is Michelle Turner, and this is the show on 103.5 FM LP WNHH New Haven. In the studio with me this afternoon/evening are two mothers who have the same issue, but very different stories. The first is Ife Waters. You may know her from the New Haven Parents Council. And Lisa Van Naki. Their children both play Pop Warner football. And you may have heard the story of Ife's son, who was denied the day of the game. And I know that there was a story on Fox 61 last night regarding his situation. And it's been all over social media here in New Haven. And I'd like to talk to these two women to hear their side of the story and exactly how they plan on doing more and what their next steps are to get this resolved. So welcome, Ife. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for being on the show this evening.
Thank you for having us.
I want to say, first of all, that of course, if Pop Warner wants to appear on the show and give their explanation for anything at any time, they are more than welcome, because I think our community would like to have answers. The greater New Haven community and the New Haven community, period, would like to have answers as far as why this happened and how it can be resolved. So, Ife, give us a little background on your son.
My son's name is Amadi Tawi. He attends fourth grade at East Rock Community Magnet School. He is an interdistrict student, which means that we live in New Haven, and he goes to East Rock, New Haven Public School.
Speak directly into the mic.
Okay.
Better.
Yes. Okay. That's better.
No.
No?
You shouldn't have moved it.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Right there is
Okay.
good, and get as close to it as possible without bumping into it.
Okay.
Live radio, folks.
Alrighty.
Better.
Okay. He plays multiple sports, track, basketball, but he loves football.
And how long has he been playing football?
He's been playing football since he was 5 years old.
And he's 9?
And he's 9.
So it's about 4 years.
Yes, exactly. 4 years. He's just he has a big personality. Some of the school staff has given him the nickname the mayor. He seems to know everyone, speaks to everyone. He has a lot of personality. Sweet kid, very social. You can't miss him, and he will make sure that you know his name by the end of
His conversation.
his conversation.
And what position does he play?
Oh, and so see how I am not really football savvy. So
Come on, you're his mom. You should
so I
know.
think he does like safety.
Okay. Okay.
That's it. That's all I know. He played quite a few positions.
Getting acclimated to the sport.
Yeah, right.
I'm just,
Right.
it's really not my thing.
Uh-huh.
That's like daddy and son
Okay.
sort of thing. I'm
All
just
right.
like he said one time when he thought I was not going to make it to his game, and I was really trying to not make it to his game, and he goes, "Mommy, I need you there." And I said, "But you have your daddy." And he said, "No one screams my name like you." So I'm his cheerleader.
Exactly. We're the biggest fans out there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Lisa, your son is how old?
This is my grandson, actually.
Okay. All
Evan.
right.
He's 8 years old.
Okay.
And I want to say this is his third year that I can remember. He plays running back, I want to say, because
Get closer.
he runs the ball quite a bit. So
Okay.
I'm going to say, if I had to guess his
Is he
position.
a receiver or is he a running back?
He runs the ball, so I'm going to say running back.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so he's such a delightful kid. He loves football. It took him a while to really get into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think his first year, he kind of didn't want to play as much. He really wasn't into getting hit, didn't really want to practice. But the coaches all said, this kid has potential.
Mm.
You know, we want him out here. I even took him to practice one day, and he said, "Mimi, I don't want to practice." I said, "You don't? Why not?" He said, "Because I just don't." And you know how mothers are, grandmothers are. We kind of cater to the boy. We baby him up. I said, "Well, you know what? You don't have to if you don't want to." But his mother had already instructed me to make sure he practiced. But I'm Mimi. You know, grandmas, they do their own thing.
Right.
So I said, "Well, this is our little secret. If you don't want to practice, you don't have to. We won't tell mommy." So the coach thought
I
me
was going to
putting him
say,
in a
what
car.
did the coach say?
Coach was like, Mimi, no, you don't. Get him over here. He needs to practice. I was like, okay. So, you know, I tried, but they got him in there and he practiced. And it was a struggle for him last year. But then they all said this year he came out of his shell. This was his year to shine. He wanted to play. He wanted to practice. He went to practice every day. He played in the games. He ran the ball. He got tackled. He even made tackles. They loved him. And this was really his time to shine. And he really actually came out of his shell.
So this has been a good year for them both, right?
Yes,
The
yes.
previous year.
Yes. And I believe last year they both played on the same
Squad.
team last
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They brought that to our attention the other night.
Yeah, that's like we played together. I was
Wow.
like, okay.
Now this is Amadi. I don't know if you can see him in my camera. This is Amadi. And Grandma Lisa, you're going to have to come back and do your phone so I can show your grandson. And what is his name? Kevin. So, excuse me, Mimi. Mimi, Grandma, everybody's got something different going these days. So, Ife,
Yes.
did you have any inkling, any type of idea that what has happened was going to happen? Did you have any hint of that at all?
I had no idea. Like I said, my son's been playing since he was 5 years old. I've been giving the same documents for the past 4 years. This year was a little different.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first year they asked me for his IEP, which is an individualized education program. And so I didn't understand that piece of it.
Was this a new rule? Were you told about this previously?
Well, what I've noticed that this year they were like 10U, versus being in a different age, I guess they labeled it different this year.
Okay.
And like
So they
yeah.
got different units.
Yeah, I think they did a change.
Mhm.
And again, I do apologize because I'm not really familiar. The only thing I know is football season, come register, pay my money,
Yeah.
bring my child.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's it. And so
they have a different bracket this year.
this year and from my understanding, I think my son, the I guess the category that they are in, now I think it qualified them to go to nationals.
Okay.
And so
All right.
what happened is, I guess as the kids get older,
Mm-hmm.
if they win, they can play in Florida.
Okay. They go to the national championship.
Yes. And
So are there different rules, do you know, for folks to play? I guess there is as of a certain time because they asked you for that IEP.
Well, I think the reason why they asked me, and again, I want to be very careful of the things that I say, because what I don't want to do is start giving people, I don't want to help them create their story.
Yeah. Because yours is yours alone.
Exactly. And, because we still haven't received answers that, they can kind of like pick out what we're saying and then try to make up saying, oh, well, this happened.
Yeah.
And so basically when I gave Amadi's report card, the fourth marking period, which is the fourth quarter, June, was not filled in.
Hold on. Let me show Kevin so everybody can see Kevin. I got to make sure I get him in the camera.
There you go.
That is Lisa's grandson. Excuse me, Mimi.
Yes.
There is her grandbaby, Kevin. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the fourth quarter was not filled in. Amadi goes to extended school year. And any child with an IEP qualifies. Well, actually is, they can go into extended school year, which is summer school, to get additional reading, additional, math, additional learning. And so I didn't really pay no mind when I turned in the report card. It was brought to my attention by the young lady, and I don't know if it's safe to use names.
Don't use names.
Okay. That normally does the registration and so forth. And she said to me, Ife, I noticed that the fourth quarter is not filled in. And I said, well, that must be because, of the whole IEP. And she said, well, give me the top page of the IEP. And I said, at first I was like, well, technically that is not a document that anyone should be asking for.
Yeah, there's personal stuff on there.
Yeah.
But it was the first page, and pretty much the first page, it gives you your name, the school, the grade.
So it's informational.
Right. So I was taking it as maybe that was another way to verify that he's in school, verify that the fact that the report card looks the way that it does, because he does receive special education services. Then a couple of days later, she came back to me and she says, they're not accepting the report card. And I said, why is that? And she says she didn't really get an answer. And I said, well, that's his report card. And she said, I'm going to try it one more time. I'm going to try to explain it. And I said, okay, no problem. A couple of days later from that, I receive a notice from the coach saying that Amadi had Amadi name on the top, that Amadi needed to turn in a report card or a letter from the school verifying enrollment. So I went to the school and I request for that letter. They gave me the letter on their letterhead, and I turned it in. From that point, from my understanding, and this is dated like September the 19th,
Mm-hmm.
and I was told, I gave everything, and I thought that everything was legit, like everything was submitted. There was no more questions. The day, it was Wednesday, October the 23rd. The game started at 6:15. We were still en route to the game. The team mom gave us a call because one of the coach wanted to know where was Amadi.
Uh-huh.
And I said, we're en route. And we got there. So Amadi immediately ran to the field. And at the time, the coaches had another team player to pass out the game jersey. And Amadi went to go get his jersey, and the team, player said, Coach told me not to give you the jersey.
Wow.
So Amadi, in his mind, they were told the game before, which was that Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
that, no, I'm sorry. They was told at practice that Monday that they must bring in their practice jersey, because I think what happened was they felt, they thought that if they didn't win that particular game, then it was over.
Yeah.
And so they wanted them to already have what it was that they needed to have.
So
to turn
let me ask you a question. At this point, have you heard from anyone as to why your son could not play?
I didn't know my son couldn't play because he just played that Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And so when my son, he ran back and he said, Mommy, call my dad. Tell my dad to go to the house to get my practice jersey. And he said, Amadi, just wait, because he went to go get you something to drink. He said, no, the game is getting ready to start. And I can't get my game jersey until I get my practice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, by this time, the president of New Haven chapter, Pop Warner chapter, he said, Ife, can I talk to you for a second? And I said, sure, no problem. So I stepped to the side, and, he began to explain to me that there was something happening.
But he didn't know what, or?
No, he said that it just came down.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had just came to deliver the message on that day that there was about 20 kids that was pulled from the roster that could not play. And he said, Amadi is one of them. And I said, what? Amadi? Why? He said, I don't know. It's something about the IEP. I said, what do you mean about the IEP? So he said, I've been calling and calling, and no one seems to be answering. So he tried again from someone that was from the national board that lives in Mass. And he finally connected, and the phone was loud enough for me to hear the conversation. And so he was saying, the president from New Haven was saying that we've had these different meetings. We've talked about what was an approved document for the kids to play, that all documents was turned in a timely fashion before the deadline, which was supposed to be October the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I have this one kid, everything, somehow he got caught in this sweep, and he was like, well, what's an IEP? And so I began to, explain. And the president was repeating everything that I was saying. And he goes, oh, yeah. But that report card looks different. We have kids that have IEPs, with their report cards, but not like this child. And he said, well, unfortunately, he still can't play.
But you bought them the letter.
Exactly.
No one mentioned the letter?
Exactly. And that's what I kept saying, at the end. And it was just, I think by that time, emotions got really high
Mm.
between president to president,
Yeah.
you know, because it was like, you know, you can't do this. It was more, I'm hearing the president saying, you know, this is not right. And so I'm sitting here and it was like, I was trying to listen, but then I have a child who's now crying.
Right.
His heart is broken because
He
he's
can't play.
confused because, you know, I'm like, it's not the jersey, sweetie. Just give me a second. And he's like, you know, he's being impulsive, you know, because he wants to play. The game is starting. His team needs him. And I'm sitting here. It's like I was kind of like caught in between
Yeah.
a lot of
Things
stuff
going on at one
going
time.
on.
Yeah.
And I really couldn't put my brain around, and I'm still trying to figure out. And so the person that they sent, that's supposed to be the vice president of the national, and please forgive me because everybody have so many titles. I don't know
Yeah.
who belongs where.
Yeah.
And I turned to him and I said, what is the problem again? And he said, something's not complete or something, they can explain it. I said, you're not going to be able to explain it. His report card says basic, proficient, goal. And that's based off of his program, his
Right.
educational, his individualized educational program
Yeah.
that supports him to be successful in
All right.
school.
I want you to hold your thought there because I want to bring Lisa in. And I want you to explain, Lisa, why your grandson is not being permitted to play.
So
And get close to the mic.
his story is similar to Ife's. And as far as I know, his mom told me she sent in all the required documents during registration, and his report card was the same exact way Ife explained hers. It had the first, second, and third marking periods, but the fourth marking period wasn't there. She said she handed it in. It was acceptable. Kevin played. I don't know if it was, I know there was 8 games, so that's 8 weeks. I'm sure there
Mhm.
was a jamboree, which was before the regular season games. They usually
Okay.
do a jamboree, so that I would say 9 weeks, maybe 9 to 10 weeks. He was out there. Then there was conversation around one of the team members from New Haven asking Sylvia to get some information. She was told the report card was incomplete.
Now, time frame. How long ago was that? Was that about 2 weeks ago?
This was, I would say within 2-week frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was asked to get some supporting documents. I don't know if it was the first page of the IEP report card.
And Sylvia is your daughter?
Daughter-in-law.
Okay.
But she was asked by the team mom and one of the New Haven officials. She was told this report card was incomplete and we need another document. So she said the piece that they asked for was the front page of the IEP.
Mm-hmm.
However, Kevin went to Mustard Seed, Highville, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And there were a lot of changes within that school last year. The principal, they have a new principal, a new
Mhm.
secretary. The teacher that he had is now gone. So when the mom went to the school to try to get some supporting document, no one could help her. She was told, well, his teacher is not here. The secretary couldn't go in the database system to pull anything out. No one knew anything. She really had a hard time getting any supportive documents.
Mm.
And she came back and she let them know that, I don't have the front page of the IEP. I went to the school. I asked for it. None of the staff were there that was there last year. I don't know what else you want me to do. This is what they gave me, and this is what I'm giving you.
Mm-hmm.
She did her part. She made a conscious effort to try to go back and get the front page of the IEP or whatever was requested of her. She couldn't get anything, and she went back and she verbalized that to the team, to the coach, to the team mom.
Now, in all of this, the coaches are saying what? Do they have any real answers for either one of you?
You want me to tell you what my son coach said? So, while the president was back and forth in that call,
Mm-hmm.
I walked over to the coaches and I said to the coach, I said, "Hey, coach," I said, "do anyone know exactly what is going on?" One coach, now there's 3 coaches.
Mm-hmm.
One coach that is more over the defense line, he turned to me and said, "Mom, we don't know. We was just told this 5 minutes ago." The head coach turned to that coach and say, "Don't talk to her. Let the president deal with it." And one of the third coach, he walked over and he said, I said, "Wow, why would someone answer like that? You know, I thought Amadi was an important part
Of the
of this
team.
team.
Yeah.
Like, how do you just, at that moment, it shut off?" And so that particular coach, I really appreciate. He did walk over and he said, "You know, don't leave. Let's give them some time to try to
Yeah,
fix
just try to
this
straighten
out
it
and
out."
straighten this out." And I said, I still couldn't get over the fact that the head coach made that comment, you know, and from that point, no one reached out to me and
And-
asked me anything about Amadi.
And Lisa, your, I guess, daughter-in-law's reaction to everything was,
She was appalled. She was appalled. She said, "I don't understand what is going on. Why would you take my son off the roster and say he can't play?" And this was 3 days before his playoff game. She said, "I was told that he was good. His documents were in. He was straight. The coach reiterated that to her. Oh, Kevin is good. He's good. He can play." And the team mom also said to her, "He's good." So in her mind, she's hearing from her head coach and her team mom that he's good.
mm-hmm.
So he's playing. And she's not thinking about anything. Now you come to her 3 days before the playoff game and say something's missing.
Wow.
You have missing documents. Well, what's missing? Well, we need a progress report. She wasn't told that until 3 days before the playoff game. But if you needed a progress report, how come that wasn't verbalized to her when she handed all the documentation in?
So at this stage of the game, there is nothing coming from Pop Warner other than what the coaches have told
The
you all.
local president.
The local president.
I've witnessed, I was told he did request a meeting
mm-hmm.
and then the meeting was canceled.
Did they say why?
No, there were, all the information that I received has been through third parties.
Okay. All
that
right.
has, you know, from family to friends, that is either part of the Pop Warner that has had conversations or has been a real advocate in this, you know, in this whole journey with me. And it went from the documentation wasn't turned in on time by the New Haven League. The New Haven League
for the whole league.
Exactly, and
For the
that
whole
that,
league.
that
Yep.
was
And
the
that
question.
might be
yeah,
part of the issue.
right. And so my question was, well, if all of the documents wasn't turned in, then wouldn't the whole league?
Right. Not be able to play.
accountable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the fact was, like if they didn't take Amadi out,
Mm-hmm.
then the whole team would have been disqualified.
Exactly.
But then we learned that there's a similar child in West Haven that had the same issue as Madi, but because the report is different, they allow that child to play.
Now, is that during the same time frame?
Yes, during the same exact time frame.
Okay.
All of this is so the stories are very conflicting.
Mhm.
New Haven, I've seen the book that shows here's Amadi's document.
Okay.
All of the originals was in the book that went up to, nationals. And so it went from documentation was
Mhm.
missing, and it was proven that the documentation wasn't missing. The documentation wasn't turned in on time. It was proven that the documentation was
And
turned
how
in
was
on
that
time.
proven?
Because in the book,
they stamp.
they stamped them.
Okay.
Yeah. And
All
so
right.
it's filled out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was proven. And then it was a scholastic issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Are you sure you want to say that? Because now you're discriminating against this
Mm.
child. Because there's nothing. I did my research. I looked up on Pop Warner. I went through, I even paid for their policy book,
Mm-hmm.
to let me see.
And there was nothing there.
There was nothing. I so happened to find different issues. There was one issue in California with a child with disabilities that those parents was fighting. I saw another blogger from back in 2008 where that parent also was having issues with the
Same
IEP.
issue?
Same issue.
issues.
Okay.
So it looks like this has been going on
But it's flown under the radar
exactly
for everybody.
for everyone. And I guess because I'm also a special education advocate,
Mm-hmm.
so between it's being my son and being my passion, it's why I can't sit back and see this happen to another child.
And Lisa, very similar in the respect that documentation was turned in, stamped,
Yes.
and yet and still
yes.
the IEP is the issue.
Yes, and there were several different stories as well. First, it wasn't turned in on time. And then I asked her, and she says it was turned in. The coach verified that it was turned in. And then it became something was missing. Then we asked for a progress report. The story changed 3 different times. So it's suspect. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
There's no consistency in what I'm hearing. And furthermore, if you have support and information as to, proof as to what you're saying, why isn't it communicated in a clear and direct way to the parent? There's no clear and direct communication to the families.
Now, with that said, I know that there had been not necessarily a formal petition, but when I say petition, I mean they've been asked for a meeting.
Well, it was a petition because according to Pop Warner Policy Article 19 of protests,
Mm-hmm.
That comes from the president or the coach, and so it has been recorded that the president of the league did go to the refs, the officials, and said that this game is under protest or requesting a protest because
Okay.
there's a child missing. So the officials said, well, are you protesting yourself? And he said, no, I'm protesting the Southern Pop Warner League. So what happens next with that, from my understanding, according again to their policies, which I don't see either, people are not really comprehending
Mm-hmm. What the policy
what
is.
the policies, yes, or not quite understanding the whole jargon with that, or they're not responding. Like there's next steps,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so there's no response to those next steps. And I wanted to share with you one of the things that I found on, again, their website, popwarner.com, when I was looking, because again, no one is giving me these answers. I just have, oh, well, it's the New Haven fault. And, New Haven's like, no, it's not our fault. But part of it, I'm going to read just a piece of it on far as academic requirements for participation. On their website, it says, those who do not meet the requirements or are homeschooled students can still play if they follow the alternative eligibility process. So my question was the next process to that, was that in receiving the enrollment letter? Because far as Amadi goes, you have all of those things.
Right.
I can't give you something else that I don't have.
That you don't have, yeah.
And then when we're looking at, I listened to when Lisa said about, she was asked for, the mother was asked about a progress report. First of all, with the way the New Haven school system and other school systems, their progress report time that they're given, first of all, that runs differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even believe that the schools actually have done them within the same, within that period for anyone to even get a progress report. So it's like a lot of things are happening without making a real connection to the schools.
Exactly.
And then there's nowhere on their website, their policies, anything that speaks about IEPs of special education. Now there's others like coaches that have said, oh yeah, we ask for them, but what are you asking for when you have no idea what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
what
I
are you
would
comparing it to?
And I would think that because it's private information,
Exactly.
that it's not necessarily something that can be requested or
Exactly.
given without the permission of the parent.
Exactly. And so now the person that does the scholastics,
Now, when you say scholastics, can you explain what that is?
I really can't. When I looked up, I saw there is
according to Pop
Warner, there is an Excel sheet that if you have, you're supposed to put in the grades, and it's already, I guess, we call it average out. So if it's an A, it's supposed to have a certain percentage and so forth. So then it actually tally it up for you. But when I look for Amadi, based on what he has as a report card, there is nothing that match. The only thing that comes close to that is U for unsatisfactory, S for satisfactory, and P for passing. But Amadi doesn't have that on his report card. He has basic, proficient, and goal.
Yeah.
So how would you wouldn't be able to measure, to even balance out to see, because all enough for a child to play with Pop Warner, according to Pop Warner, that they're supposed to have at least a 2.0.
That's what I was going to ask you. What is the
guidelines for the
guidelines, and what is the grade point average? What is it that's needed?
It's 2.0. It has to be
play.
a C. Yeah, 2.0/C average. And so you could never measure. How do you measure? There was nothing. And when I say I really did my research and looking, there was nothing. And I purchased the policy book. I have documentation on my end when I requested from the school, because with Amadi, because of his particular IEP, his program set up, part of that is we have a communication logbook. So I write in it, the nurse write in it, the teachers, the special education coordinator.
Yeah, so that you have an idea of what his day is like, what he's learning, et cetera, et cetera.
And I have the time when the day that I asked for those letters, the day that it was told to me, letters are in manila envelopes, in his communicate. So it's like I have a paper trail
Mhm.
You know, I have a paper trail of everything that they asked me, when they asked me, you know, so I'm not understanding Amadi's situation.
But you don't get a GPA when you have an IEP. You mentioned that it's totally different.
You don't.
Yeah.
But, and so the reason why I'm saying that is because I've heard other parents says, well, my child has an IEP and his report card has A, B, and C. First of all, the IEP is based on the child unique needs or unique way of learning, what it is that they need. And a lot of these report cards out here, a lot of these IEPs are not even correct. And unless you've studied, unless you've trained, unless you have a good special education team, a lot of parents don't even know whether or not those documents are correct. So to compare, I couldn't compare Amadi's to Kevin,
Right.
you know, and Kevin couldn't be
To
compared
someone
to
else.
exactly because it's based on their unique needs.
Individual.
Individually. That's why it's called an individualized
Yes, exactly.
education
Education plan.
program. Right.
Right.
So you can't say Kevin's is incomplete and Amani's is incomplete because according to their program, how do you know if it's incomplete or not?
Yeah.
What are your basis for saying this is incomplete when you don't know how his program is tailored for his needs?
And prior to this year, it was never an issue.
Never.
Never.
It was never a question. No one never requested because this child had an IEP since he was in
Since he,
pre-K4.
yeah, I was going to say probably since
From the
he's been
time
in
he
school.
entered school because of his medical needs, you know, because it's more to Amadi. But the IEP is really based off of the learning piece of it, you know, and that's what they requested from me. So it's like you have people in places that are asking for documentation. One, they shouldn't ask for. And two, they don't even understand it. So you penalize a child for your lack of knowledge. And no adult has been man enough, woman enough to come to the families, to pull these kids to the side and say, I'm sorry.
At
I
minimum.
messed up.
Now, let me ask, what are the next steps that you all are going to take? Lisa, I'm going to ask you first. What do you think the next step is for your family?
Well, we've been talking about a petition electronically on social media just to put more of the story out there and to ask for support within the community to understand Kevin's situation and to have them understand the ultimate goal. Like, we would like to see some sort of policy change, some sort of reconstruction of the policy. Like Ife said, you're asking for something, one, that you probably don't have knowledge of, you know, and two, you don't understand it. Like, there needs to be some reconstruction. So part of the next steps are to reach out to the community, petition, let them know what's happening, get some support, and to advocate for change. Those are the next steps.
Same thing for you, Ife, or something a little bit different?
Well, I want to put a spin to that. And I know that I said this inside my in my live that I've done, my live feed. And I know that I've gotten question in my inbox about what I meant. So I shared that if the LGBTQ community can get together and rally, you know, for change with different things, if the transgender community can get together and change the symbol on a feminine product that's been there for years, I'm not understanding why a football community can't get together. There's many children in the urban communities that has IEPs, whether parents having that problem now or whether the parents
Have had it in the
had it
past.
in the past and just walk away.
And has anybody talked about how they rectified it in the past? Nothing.
There was nothing that was talked about. But my thing is, we as a people need to become more proactive than reactive. And a lot of times we don't look for change, or we don't start changing or trying to change things until things start to personally affect us. I don't want it to be, I want it to be as this, because we're a community, because these are children, and that, I believe that many of us love the kids. Let that be enough to say, I stand with these families. I don't want to see another child be affected by it.
So what's your next step?
My next step is change.
How?
Is going for change. Continue to beat the grass, the rat, or the snakes.
And how do you plan on doing that?
Continue to shine light on this situation. Continue to reach out to the community and asking for support. And if my next step is to get in a car and drive all the way to Pennsylvania and knock on their doors, to be in their face, or to find out when the championship games are and do a protest, in their face, to let them see that we deserve answers.
We do.
You deserve to talk to these kids,
because the season's almost over.
Yeah,
It's almost over.
Yes, it's basically over right now. They're doing, they're preparing for the championship.
And if they lose, it's over. So
It's
we
over.
don't know what,
Right.
it's based on each game.
So next year we're going to be looking at this again. No, these children have rights and they've been violated.
So what would you want to see from Pop Warner? A change in policy, correct?
Correct.
And somebody coming to you and maybe even just saying, hey, this is the reason why. And let's look at how we can do this differently.
That's a start.
Yeah.
That's not the ultimate solution,
Okay.
but that's a start.
Okay.
Because these are memories. And you can't recreate a memory, something that has already happened. This child, if I had 3 days, if someone would have called me before I got to that field,
It would be different.
it would be totally different. The fight would still be there, but the impact to see this kid cry for 30 minutes until he put himself to sleep, and for a child to tell you, why can't I just be normal? That broke my heart to hear my son say, what's wrong with me? I just want to be normal. How do you explain to a 9-year-old, you're normal? And he's like, obviously I'm not, because I need something else. And because I needed something else, it prevented me from doing the very thing that I love,
that
the
I
most.
enjoy.
I enjoy.
Yeah. So, Lisa, in putting all of this in context, are you looking for similar to what Ife is asking for, or more?
I'd like to see what she's speaking about and more if possible. I believe that in the phases of reconstructing the policy, I believe there should be some education around IEPs. I'm not sure how knowledgeable the board members are when it comes to special education and IEPs, but the person who is asking for the documents, whoever Kevin's mother handed that information to, and then it went from her hand to another hand, and wherever it went, I want to know, are those people competent in special education? What do they know? What are they looking for? Because if they don't know much, which it sounds like they don't, then let's get some education around that. let's provide some sort of training, at some point in the off season as to regular education, special education, documents that need to be supported with an IEP. I want to see some training for the staff on the board that are asking for this paperwork.
It first have to be a law to get it done, because you can't ask for any of this.
Exactly.
Well, have
So-
you approached any of the state reps, state senators?
They see what's going on. Everybody's right now is more focused on being elected, and so my thing is there's been some comments. I've seen state reps respond to my page, but it takes more than that, and this, my vote, I don't give my vote for free. I got to see where you're doing a hold, like it has to be, you have to affect the whole and not just, little piecemeal because right now you want to vote. So I'm not so much interested in that.
All right. We have to wrap things up, but I do thank you both. Ife Waters, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
Lisa Van Naki, thank you so much for being here today
You're
and
welcome.
giving this a real voice
Yes.
and letting people know what you're experiencing so that the community can have your ear, your opinion, and hear not only what you've had to say, but how you've had to put it, how you've had to express it.
Exactly.
Yes, I like that you're saying that, but I also want the community to understand that every child has a unique way of learning. So all of their programs are going to look different, and the answer should not just be walk away.
Lisa Van Naki, Ife Waters, thank you so much for being here today on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep us posted. Let us know
certainly
what's
will.
going on. If you get any resolve, let me know. If you don't get any resolve, let me know.
We'll definitely do that.
Okay.
yes.
And
Reach
you're
out.
always welcomed here.
Thank you.
And this has been the show on 103.5 FM LP, WNHH, New Haven Independent.org. Thank you, Harry. Appreciate your time and patience, really and truly. Thank you. Good night. Your mics are still on. I just want to let you know that.
Promise I won't say anything.
Incriminating.